Hey guys, VaulSC, how you going? We're going to take a look at a game of infiNity today between the military orders and YuJing, and the mission will be Supremacy, the same mission that I was covering in the Interplanetary final yesterday, although this game was played earlier in the week, so just coincidence that's the same. Here is a little bit of a look at the table that we laid out, hopefully not too dense, not too sparse. This is a look at the table side on. I know a lot of you guys still like it when we have a look at the the army lists. So I'll just go through it. I'm running the list which I call the Hospital Church. It's Joan of Arc with 4 Hospitaller Knights. I've played this list a couple of times, haven't changed anything about it, still really like it. So there is a Fusilier hacker. His most important role is being a specialist, but also putting down fairy dust to protect the knights from hacking attempts. Tech B, a 5-point irregular order which becomes regular thanks to Joan's inspiring leadership. The knights, you take the HMG, of course. You need that range band covered, very powerful at BS 17 and 5 dice. Doctor, give your link a specialist and to revive one of the knights if he goes down. 2 boarding shotguns because they're brutal up close and they are the cheapest knights in the link that you can take. And then Joan of Arc, of course, with the multi-rifle because you like the multi-rifle version of the stats. The Spitfire stats, aren't quite optimal. And of course, with the double action close combat weapon. Pathfinder John Bot, really helpful specialist, Whip 13. And probably the most important decision in the list, which I think differs from the way that other people may play the Hospital Church, is my decision to take 2 specialist sergeants with multi-snipers. These guys, to me, are important because sometimes you're in a situation where you move Joan of Arc's group to a space further out in the field, maybe close to their deployment zone, and having 2 snipers in the right positions help you against a swarm of warbands that are going to try and outmaneuver you and throw smoke grenades and maybe get jammers and chain rifles and Emirats off on you. So having the snipers out there to deter that's really important. It's just about board control because the big group of knights can only be in one place at one time. So having those sergeants out there covering certain lanes that the knights can't, and giving you strength on parts of the table that you otherwise wouldn't have, really important. And for a mission like Supremacy, doubly so because the knights are going to only be able to control 1 or 2 quadrants very well, but the specialist sergeants can infiltrate out without even having to move them. They may be able to control other zones as well if you follow me. So that's how I like to play this. Now, my opponent had to reconstruct his list from memory. Can't really remember fully what he had because he was testing out at least one of the new profiles from the new expansion coming out. So that's not actually on Army 6 at the moment. I'll just briefly talk you through the models that I do know that featured in his list. The control device and 4 Guangxi, absolutely standard. 2 Zhanshi, one is a decoy, the other one is the lieutenant. Then we've got a non-lieutenant CN warrior with HMG, pretty solid. TR bot, fine. Baggage bot, 8 points, very good. Same with the flash pulse bot. He takes the Guilang assault hacker, not always the best choice, but this is a favorite one of this particular opponent. Ninja Killer Hacker, extremely solid. 2 Shaolin Monks, very, very good. Bounty Hunter Sniper, I've never been a big fan of him, but a lot of people do like the strength of his sniping relative to his points. Yeah, each into their own. So Supremacy, obviously you guys know how this one's played. The thing is that it's changed a bit lately, so you obviously draw the lines through the battlefield and you're trying to basically go tick, tick, tick and have 3 zones to your opponent's 1, for example, at the end of every game round. Going second turn makes this a lot easier, but in Season 10 it has changed in the sense that the classifieds are a little bit different. Let me just see if I can bring up the actual scenario. I should have done this before I started recording, but that's okay. So it's still a point per game round for having more zones captured, but importantly the Xenotech makes a difference in this one because he gives you an additional bonus point if you have the Xenotech in one of the zones that you are dominating. So quite important there. I don't think you're allowed to have the Xenotech go along with somebody who's in a link team because of it's G-synced. If that's incorrect, then I'll need to know, but I don't think we were playing it that way during this game. So you can still hack a console. I still believe that Intel Com makes a difference. Does it actually? Maybe it doesn't anymore. I'll have to read this a bit more carefully, but the main thing I wanted to say is that there are some classifiers which give you a bonus point, which will be important as well. Hackers have +3 to hack consoles, but otherwise very similar to the old version of Supremacy. Alright, so that's that image. Next up, here's a view of my deployment zone. And then here's a view of my opponent's deployment zone. I believe for this one, I'm going first. I think I won the dice roll for first turn and opted for first. Either that or my opponent picked table side, then I took first turn. Same thing arose either way. So military was going first here and deploying first. So at the extreme right-hand side of my deployment zone, you've got the Fusilier hacker here with the Xenotech, further out. The deployment zone edges around about here. So plan is just to move them forward, place the multi-scanner, and then the link teams further in the midfield of the deployment zone, which we'll have a look at now. So here's the setup. So you can see that's where the Xenotech is over the side. We just talked about that. Over here, we've got Joan of Arc herself, Doctor alongside her, 2 boarding shotguns here and here, and the HMG there. Now, in this matchup, you always have to be worried that your opponent has a hack tower with missile launcher, and I started thinking about what I would do. I think if you move out with the Knights and the hack tower appears, you could go for a dodge with everybody, or you could fire just the HMG at the missile launcher, and odds aren't actually bad, because he starts out at BS-17, obviously minus the TO, and has a good chance of actually beating the missile launcher and doing some damage. You can always revive a dead member with the Doctor after that face-to-face has happened. And with the Knights being armor 4 and 2 wounds, it is actually possible to not die outright to a missile blast if you pass a couple of saves. So all is not lost. The other idea that I had is that if the Hacktail missile launcher does show up, what I could do is do a coordinated order with both my Order Sergeant snipers who are in marker state, not hidden deployment, because I'm going first. I need the extra orders provided from them. And the Pathfinder as well. So if the Pathfinder comes out, both snipers come out, they all fire at the Hacktail. Maybe he decides to shoot back at one of the snipers, who knows, or the Pathfinder. If the Pathfinder is still there, you can then do a triangulated fire on him, which makes it a bit easier to get around his TO camo. As it happened, I wasn't up against a hack tower this game, so thankfully didn't have to worry about that. Here's the left-hand side of my deployment zone. So this model here is representing a Tech B. This is the actual HVT over here, represented by Cordelia, and the Pathfinder over the extreme left-hand side. You may have actually seen in the previous image that there was a Order Sergeant sniper at the top of this tower, prone on top of the tower, but not next to the edge of it. He just wants to stay there for now, and he's beyond the deployment zone, so he will be able to actually put his points in the zone on my rank, on my right, closest to my zone, my deployment. And the other Order Sergeant is in reserve. So here's a closer look at Joan and the boys. Alright, so my opponent setting up a Guilang assault hacker in the building on his right-hand side. Then we'll talk through some of his other deployments. So extreme right-hand side, you've got the baggage bot right here. Guangxi here, another Guangxi here, Shaolin there. That's the Guilang we just talked about. He's got a flash pulse bot over here, and I believe like a sensor bot over there. This is the control device. No, it's not the control device. That is a basic decoy Zhanshi, who is not the lieutenant. Moving through to the middle of his setup. So we just looked at that Shaolin Monk, that Guilang, and that bot there, and this bot here. This is the non-lieutenant Zhanshi. Over here we have a hacker, which I forgot to tell you about in his list. That's just a basic, normal, ordinary hacker. Another Guangxi here, another Shaolin here. And there is a camo marker over this side here. This is the new YuJing profile that is effectively a heavy infantry model that can infiltrate, but not a Dao Fei, and he's got like a submachine gun. I can't remember what he's called, but you guys all know the one that I'm talking about. Further to the left, we also have the Bounty Hunter here, who rolls up some sort of inconsequential ability on the booty table. His HVT is over here next to that infiltrating camo marker. Alright, and a look further back at more of his deployments. Just quite importantly, his lieutenant is located here inside this building, so it's going to be quite hard for me to get to and assassinate him. Right, and then just another close-up look at that. There he is inside the building. My reserve troop is coming down here. This is the order sergeant. Note that his bounty hunter sniper is there. I could go and kill it with Joan of Arc and friends, but an easier way to do that is to move the order sergeant around to this spot here. He'll gain cover from this data pillar advertising board. And the sniper, to be honest, when you've got TO camo, a surprise attack, you probably have just as good a chance at winning the face-to-face roll as the Hospitality HMG does. Quite frankly, it's probably pretty close. His reserve model is the HMG, hanging out pretty safely on these stairs over here, just covering the back line as well for any drop troopers, potential Crusader. Not that that's the case, you can see all 10 of my models. So the turn begins. Military orders go first, doing exactly like I promised, moving this little order sergeant around here to see the sniper in the distance. The sniper very effectively destroys the bounty hunter, so that is one guy out of the way. Note that this is a movement where the order sergeant comes around into view and then comes back again and takes the shot while it was at the corner. It's important that the order sergeant isn't killed by the Sien warrior with HMG later on, because the HMG Sien warrior can just move to one of these windows here and they just fire at him. So he's got to retreat around here, otherwise he'll die. But importantly, both order sergeants are holding down the two zones closest to my deployment. So the game plan is to move Joan of Arc and friends out and move into one of his zones, but not too far out, just in a position where they can really tank hits and survive and do well, hopefully, in enemy territory. So just because I'm worried about a Hack Tau missile launch at this point, just cautiously moving this boarding shotgun out here and the HMG back here. The HMG is the link leader. And at this point, if he decides to fire a missile at me, at most, I can really only lose a couple of knights because this boarding shotgun is kind of too far back. So that will at least spring that missile launcher out, but nobody's actually there, so they keep on moving. And we've got tons of orders to do this, so just moving out here. So Joan of Arc, just moving towards the left-hand flank. I spotted a position that they could take up on the battlefield. So I'm moving towards that. I'm just going to open up my photo catalog here, and I'll just sort of explain it. So the knights begin around here. That's their deployment, and my plan is to move them all around through here to the back of this building. Note that there's a little ladder here, and what they can do is they can all camp behind that building, still get a line of sight through here to help defend anybody coming through, and still shoot back at any Tiger soldiers landing in my deployment zone. The HMG can take up a position there, where it's going to be able to see through that little gap at a lot of skirmishes sort of coming past, and through into the enemy deployment zone, but also shoot up a lot of guys who are going to be exposed around the back. So that's going to be my game plan. And the other thing is that, let me just get a better color. The other thing is that if you look at where the middle of the table is, I'm going to have an order sergeant here and here, just covering off my two zones. So I'm going to be able to tick these ones. And if I get like a pretty costly heavy infantry model there and another one behind the building back here, that should be enough points to actually hold this zone, unless he moves a lot of stuff into it, in which case I can perhaps kill them. So that is my strategy here. It's my game plan. So we'll go through it. Just trying to find the picture again. So here it is. So the knights all just moving out towards that particular spot. No hidden deployment showing up. He's probably got a ninja, but if he reveals the ninja, the knights will clobber him pretty badly. So here they are, all setting up over here next to the HVT. What we can then do is send the HMG up here and towards that spot there. He's going to have to deal with a TR bot, but the HMG in a 5-man link has a pretty good shot at doing that. This model here, just really sitting up as close as possible to the table edge as possible. I told my opponent I didn't physically want to put the model too close to the edge, otherwise he'll actually fall off and plummet to his doom on the hard floor of the gaming store below. So, just explain to him that he's trying to be flush next to the building to try and get into that particular quadrant. So the HMG moves up here, takes a bit of a shootout with the TR bot in the distance. This is him over here. HMG pops off here and blasts him, destroys the TR bot, then is able to move further forward into a spot of cover where he can actually take on things like the Minesweeper bot and the Flash Pulse bot, Guangxi and the like. And, you know, really irritatingly here, I believe my opponent rolls a crit with the Flash Pulse, so kind of shuts down the push. It's not a disaster because the HMG is still going to be a prime spot. There are very few things in his list which can really deal with his HMG comfortably, and he's going to get shots off against all of the warbands swarming towards the Knight's position. But still very annoying that I didn't get the extra kill on the Flash Pulse spot and pick up a couple of extra models, which I easily would have been able to had I not taken that Flash Pulse to the face. So yeah, quite annoying. Over the other side, I've got a few orders left. So the Fusilier allowing the Xenotech to be moved out into the zone, and he's moving forward as well, and then placing the multi-scanner successfully, so that is done without a problem. Only issue may be this camo marker up on top of the building that might come to visit me later on. So it's YuJing turn 1 now, and you can see in the distance there is a Hospitalia Knight with HMG there with a line of sight down here. So one Guangxi moves out. This is long range, but with +3 for range, -3, +3 for the link team, -3 for range, it's 2 dice on 14s. So really well ahead of the Guangxi there, but frustratingly, the Guangxi wins the face-to-face roll with his dodge, and then as the Shaolin Monk moves around, he's got, you know, going to be on a 16 with 1 dice against, again, 14s on 2 dice from the Knight, and again, frustratingly, the Shaolin Monk wins that one as well, so luck not really going my way in this game so far. Another Shaolin Monk moves out in range of the Knight, and again, the Knight still doesn't manage to kill the Shaolin. Smoke does eventually go down. We've got a Guangxi moving towards the Knight over here. Guangxi does get shot finally, but not before he gets close enough to put a chain rifle into the Knight, who I believe does take a wound from that. So yeah, things not going great here for the Hospitaliers. Shaolin Monk moving around past its smoke grenade here. There is actually meant to be a little piece of scatter terrain, a planter in the middle of that smoke. We're just removing it for the purposes of measuring where everything is, but he does put another smoke grenade down. So Shaolin Monk moving to this spot. I'm going to get my face out of the way. So Shaolin Monk moving around to here, throwing a smoke grenade over to here. There is a smoke grenade covering here, and that's going to allow him to move forward with the Flash Pulse bot, who should be dead by all rights, over into hacking range, repeater range of the Hospitalia. So that then happens, moves in here with the Flash Pulse bot, concealed by the smoke. That's going to put him into repeater range, and then we come in with, of course, our Guilang Assault Hacker. So, really annoying that this has happened. I didn't end up putting down Fairy Dust because I needed to place the Xenotech multi-scanner. Now he can start hacking me, and as soon as he immobilizes the Hospitalia Knight, the Sen Warrior can just show up and start shooting him. If he shoots with the Sen Warrior straight away, the Knight ignores the smoke penalty, firing back thanks to 6th Sense level 2, and does have a pretty good shot at defending himself there, but if he's hacked, well, it's a terrible opportunity. So, unfortunately for me, the Knight is immobilized by the Guilang with Carbonite, or whatever he decides to use there. So we have the Sen Warrior in the bottom left here, moving through. He is firing through a saturation zone of this little planter in the middle here. Knight can't respond, and sadly, after a couple of orders, the Sen Warrior has destroyed the Hospitalia Knight. So that's a pain. That's annoying, and to make matters worse, we've actually got a repeater over here right next to the whole Link team. So that although they do have martial arts for stealth, yeah, it's just not great, is it? More Guangxi now moving out because there's no HMG covering them, so just improving their position. And Sen Warrior just returning to the spot here because he doesn't want to get shot at by Joan coming over the parapet once the repeaters have been removed. This also gives him a chance to move up with his Xenotech a little bit closer to the zone and plant a multi-scanner of his own. And it's going to be in a zone that he's going to be controlling, because with the Sen Warrior in the zone and the Hospitalia HMG having gone down, there's only one other Knight with a boarding shotgun in that zone, so he's going to be able to tie up the score 1-to-1 on zones, and we've both got Xenotechs with multi-scanners in zone, so it's going to be even. Okay, so military orders turn 2. We've got this lovely order sergeant being represented by a NIST sniper. He is able to move just carefully to the edge of this this tower, and there's going to be a line of sight just barely to the flashball spot in the distance, which you're about to shoot at. Get rid of that, and that's going to mean there's going to be no repeater in range for Joan and the boys to move out successfully and start getting some shots off. So we're forming the link team now and moving out. And plan is to be very audacious here and just go for the throat. That's the best thing that this army list can do. It's not really, you know, super defensive. It's about going in and just crushing and shattering your opponent's line. So moving out now, Joan does not have the ballistic skill bonus, but she starts out BS-15. So firing long range at some Guangxi, using her multi-rifle with shock, just scattering them into the wind, really brutalizing them as much as she can. And then moving, the plan is to go towards this ladder. There is a Guilang with Assault Hacker there, but they do have stealth thanks to martial arts. Then they're moving up the top of the ladder, and they're going to take the elevator into the room and give the Guilang a taste of his own medicine, not in terms of hacking, but sword to the face kind of thing, or boarding shotgun up the bum. So that's what's going on. After removing the Guangxi, we're all moving up towards the ladder, and then climbing up to the top of the building. So we get right up to the top where they can hit the elevator, and then taking the elevator down to the second story where there's a shot lined up for the boarding shotgun to fire at the Guilang and the Xian warrior. So it's taking quite a few orders to do this, but as you can see, getting to the spot means that all the knights are going to be clustered into this one zone where their points are going to be you know, amazing for controlling that in Supremacy. And just obliterating a couple of important pieces for the enemy is really good. Now, my opponent decided to, you know, blindside me a little bit with the rules, and this is a rule I probably should have known about, but it's still, you know, maybe some people dispute this, but what he's saying here is that the boarding shotgun, as part of the link team, moves into line of sight of the Guilang. The Guilang is now allowed to have an ARO. The Guilang can hack the boarding shotgun guy because he can see him, and it doesn't really matter about stealth at this point. But the boarding shotgun guy decides to go for a hacking attempt onto Joan instead, even though he can't see Joan, and even though Joan has made a short skill with stealth. And the argument is that if you're granted an ARO, you can target a model that's moving with stealth, that even if you can't see it. And this became a thing a while back when people were on the forums complaining about the fact that you could have, you know, an Umbra Legate in a link team, for example, and move the Unidrons into, you know, area of zone of control of an enemy hacker, force them to respond to that arrow and target one of the Unidrons, only for your Umbra Legate to have a free hacking attempt on, you know, your target, for example. And apparently they came onto the forums and said, hey, that's not how it works. If you get an arrow period, then you're allowed to target a model even if it's using stealth, blah, 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 blah. So I haven't really looked into why that is the case. I still think it's a bit janky, but my opponent decided to spring that on me. So I said, hey, look, I'm not going to argue about it. Just roll the dice to see what would have happened. And he doesn't manage to hack Joan. So we continue, and the boarding shotgun obliterates the Guilang. Doesn't do any damage to the Xian warrior, unfortunately. So the Xian warrior ducks back behind cover, and the game moves on. So the rest of the knights come down the into the building. To make matters even more annoying, my opponent decided to tell me, hey, look, activate is a different skill from move, so therefore when you're moving, the other guys can't come down the elevator, so it slowed me down even more. Kind of annoying, but eventually I did get enough guys in here. And finally, we can move Joan into close combat with the Xian warrior. Joan is better than the Xian warrior in close combat, but not by a lot. He's got MA1, she's got MA3. He's CC 19, she's CC 23. So going for a bit of a swing here. Joan can effectively sustain 3 wounds, so I wasn't too worried, but luckily she does lop his head off, takes 2 wounds off him with a crit and a failed armor save, so Joan's just sitting there. Again, there's another hacker nearby as well, so there's going to be more hacking attempts on her. This time, no Oblivion, so that's good, but just getting into enemy territory where things are really annoying. So ending my turn, I'm going to have a whole team of knights in one of his quadrants, and on each of my 2 quadrants I've got Order Sergeants, which are worth around about 33 points each. Let me just double check that. Order Sergeant, yeah, 33 and 1.5 SWCs. So I was really happy about how I played this. Guangxi moving up the staircase here, getting shot at by Joan, takes a chain rifle, I believe, but Guangxi, I believe, gets shot, I think. Shaolin Monk coming towards her as well, and she does manage to dodge backwards out of range of the hacker. In fact, she may have actually guts back as a result of the chain rifle. Can't quite remember exactly what happened. Over here, so we have a very threatening camo marker coming down from this building and closer towards the Fusilier. So it moves all the way around here. And I've got my Fusilier hanging out right here, and goes for the shot here. Now he is hackable, so the best response the Fusilier could do is go for a gotcha, and this is going to be a point-blank surprise attack submachine gun. Luckily for me, though, managed to win the face-to-face roll miraculously and hack this model. The thing is that this particular model is slightly more expensive than the Order Sergeant, so he's going to be able to end his turn again with 2 zones controlled, you know, going across his left-hand flank. His one and my one, whereas I'll have the other 2, so I still won't be able to get any points on the board. Unless he kills, unless he doesn't manage to kill the Fusilier, because the Fusilier plus the Order Sergeant is worth more than this particular YuJing model. So just trying to explain that. Over here, we have a Shaolin Monk repositioning. Joan's further up there. A ninja appears from nearby to where the knights are. Nobody can see him, so he's now moving out and gets into a position here where you know, he's just moving around to the right spot, so to speak, all the way up here. Can't quite remember which route he actually took. He's trying to avoid, I think, some shots from an Order Sergeant, and eventually gets to a point where he's within zone of control of my Pathfinder. And the powerful thing about this move is that he can then use his hacking attack on the Fusilier through the repeating network and destroy the Fusilier with a red rum. That is going to mean that he will have 2 quadrants to my 2 by the end of this turn. So even though I'm well up on attrition, it's going to be even there. The last thing that he manages to do, though, is he manages to pick up one of his classified objectives. I think doing a data scan or something like that. And this was one of the classifieds that yields an additional point. So he's up by 2 points in the scenario now, despite, you know, losing the Xian Warrior, losing the Guilang, having a whole bunch of knights near his deployment zone. So that's really quite crucial. There's a lieutenant over here which does actually try shooting at Joan, which is a little bit weird. I can't remember whether they did that this order or other previous order, but that's not really a great idea with Joan still in the link team. Anyway, all the knights are camping out now. So coming to my turn, Joan's wounded. I've got a boarding shotgun guy wounded. What I'm trying to do is move Joan to the window where she can shoot at the ninja. Killing the ninja is going to mean it's going to be a lot easier to control the zones later on. Unfortunately, the ninja passing all sorts of dodge checks and going gutsing behind you know, vehicles and stuff like that means that after like a couple of wasted orders, Joan has just got nothing done there. So plan B, the backup plan, is to now move out here with everybody, firing, you know, combi rifles at Shaolin Monks and all sorts, I think managing to kill him. Taking out, I believe, a baggage bot as well along the way. Again, I think this is also, this was another situation where my opponent said, okay, well, because the baggage bot can see the link team, the hacker is allowed a hacking attempt even though you're using stealth, which actually was not the case. So that definitely was not within the rules. But moving on, the baggage bot can't do anything to me. Don't really care about the hacker at this point. Moving forward with just the doctor and Joan. The 2 boarding shotgun guys are going to stay in the building because they are really camping that particular quadrant. So Joan and the doctor moving out now. Joan moving up the stairs, up the ladder to hack the head off the hacker, while the doctor going for the console, and I believe just completely failing both attempts to hack this particular console here with the last couple of orders, which was really, really frustrating. This is definitely going to mean, though, that at the end of the turn, it's very likely, or in the end of the game round, it's very likely that I have this one picked up because there's still a Pathfinder and a Order Sergeant, and the Order Sergeant by himself is worth more than the Ninja. This zone completely controlled by 2 very expensive Knights, and this zone completely controlled by, Joan of Arc and a very expensive Knight. So at the end of the game, I'm very likely to have a bonus point there from the quadrants. It's just the problem is that I was going for an additional bonus point with this Knight capturing this console, and then capturing his HVT as well, which is over here. That's the HVT, like right there. But I couldn't kill the Ninja, so that was really, really frustrating. So Ninja hanging out now, he's right next to my HVT, which means that I don't get points for capturing his HVT, and that's basically it. So I end up losing this game quite frustratingly, and for a couple of reasons. I probably didn't give enough respect to the fact that with this mission having changed now, the classified being worth 2 points is absolutely huge, and having the Xenotech dominating a particular zone is absolutely huge as well. So if I'd given the job of the Xenotech minding to maybe one of my Order Sergeants, I couldn't really do it with the Link team, but one of the Order Sergeants could have stayed alive and had that contributing point for the rest of the game. That would have been important. My classified was achievable through my hacker who died, so that wasn't really ideal. I mean, in terms of my positional plays and my decisions, I thought that I played really well, probably outplaying my opponent in a lot of spots. I did get a little bit unlucky, but it wasn't really luck that decided this game. I think it was just not really respecting what was going to matter most in terms of the objective point swings. So if I'd played this one differently, I still would have moved the Knights the same way that they moved, but maybe I would have tried to pick up my classified earlier, spend more points on the Fusilier, more orders on the Fusilier, I should say, and maybe give the Xenotech to one of the Order Sergeants, possibly just keeping an Order Sergeant near to my deployment zone out of marker state and just using him to move the Xenotech up. Maybe that would have been a possibility. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's always fun to bring up the hospital church, and I'll definitely play them a bit more in the future, given that I'm feeling a bit more confident that I would have ways of dealing with that hidden deployment missile launcher. So we'll see if that happens in future. I do see that they're being buffed, the hospital knights, sorry, the military orders as a whole being buffed by the next book. So I'm keen to see how that will improve my list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. We'll see you next time.